Hello and welcome, dear listeners, to the Reformed Gamers, episode 243, the show where we respect men and women who love to play video games. I'm one of your hosts, Logan.
And I am his Lolly Lule host, Micah.
Dude, you flowed that in. That was awesome. Listeners, if you couldn't tell, we've got a lot to talk about in this episode. A smorgasbord of things to talk about, if you will. For yours truly, and for a lot of parents and teachers out there, by the time this episode releases on public feeds, it's officially summertime, baby, which means I am putting in the work in a lot of games. It's probably going to be Tears of the Kingdom.
I was just about to say, a lot of work into Tears of the Kingdom, surely.
Yep. Hey, those dragon tears are not going to find themselves, man. I've got to put that story pieces together, which we'll get to a little bit later on. Spoiler free, of course. Yeah. But I'm excited, man. It just hit me just now. This episode, public feeds, I'm officially in summer mode, man.
Let's go.
It's just back into my college high school days where I just wake up late, game all day, and then go to bed, and then just reap. I won't be doing that. There's lawn work that needs to be done.
Of course.
But man, I'm excited. It's going to be a great summer.
No shortage of obviously fantastic games for the summer. I mean, Tears of the Kingdom alone could last you to August, back to when school starts back up in the fall. So yeah,
easily, 100%. But yeah, so it's exciting. With that being said, listeners, let us know what some of your summer plans are. You got anything lined up? Some things you want to tackle? Some things you plan on doing? Let us know in the avenues that you can connect with us. But Micah, dude, what a way to go into the summer, man.
Yeah.
Plenty of games to play, plenty of games that are coming out. We're going to be getting into them. And one of the big ones just released. And man, before we get into it, let's talk a little bit about this random game you've been playing.
Yeah. So of course it's, Tears of the Kingdom episode. We're going to dive right into it. But first game, another game I played this past couple of weeks was the PlayStation Plus launch game Humanity. This sort of puzzle game from developer Enhance, who created Rez and Tetris Effect. So fantastic pedigree from the developer. I kind of already had my eye on it, but it looked kind of, it's a puzzle game where you play as this dog and you lead like lines of human beings around to get them to the light. Sort of like, I don't know, I've never played Lemmings. I can't really compare it to that. Anyway, it looks like a very simple kind of puzzle game. And I played the first, like the prologue, and then the first whole world, like the first set of levels, like 9 levels or whatever it is. And this game is pretty clever. It's a lot of fun. It's way more approachable than I thought it might be with the controls and the commands and getting the people to move around. It's pretty approachable that way. This isn't, Logan, you said it in the pre-show, this isn't a game I'm going to stick with. It's a fine puzzle game, especially if you're a fan of the genre. I would recommend checking this out. Or if you check out a trailer and you're like, hey, that looks good, then definitely check it out. It's a good game. I just don't know where this fits in to my time schedule to play. So good game. Thumbs up for Humanity. But, just too many other games to play. So speaking of Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, real quick, a little TRG kids shout out. 2 thumbs up from all 3 kids. They are loving it. They're putting in the time. There's not really much to say. They're absolutely they're engrossed just as much as I am. Layla, my oldest, has put in over 30 hours already.
Nice.
And she's trucking along. So yeah, they're loving it. I want to have a little bit of a preface for my take on Tears of the Kingdom so far. And just like my daughter, I put in roughly, according to the Switch counter, I put in about 30 hours is where I'm at with Tears of the Kingdom. So my relationship with Breath of the Wild is I got a Switch maybe 2-3 months after launch, and I couldn't not get one after I heard all the overwhelming praise for Breath of the Wild and then Mario Odyssey. I was like, okay, gotta grab these games. Let's see. They seem like they're seminal. And I played Breath, and I was like, yeah, this is really good, but it didn't hook me. Like I played it for 60 hours. I played it a long time.
Oh wow.
And but I only beat like 2 of the 4 divine beasts, for example. I didn't finish the game. I just kind of got bored of it after a while. And I was not one of those guys that was like, Yeah, greatest game ever. It wasn't even my game of the year that year. I
Hmm.
liked it a
Hmm.
lot to like about the game, but I didn't love it.
Yeah.
So that is kind of the way I come into this, and this game is clicking with me way more.
You you know what's funny about you saying that? I have seen that exact type of response from a lot of people across social media that they weren't too hot on Breath of the Wild, but Tears of the Kingdom is like, whoa.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I'm attributing it to so far. The first thing I think is obvious. It's the set of abilities that you have with Ultra Hand and
Yep.
Fuse
Yep.
and Recall and Ascend, where you go through the ceiling and stuff.
Hmm. Yep.
That set of abilities is like way better than Breath's abilities, I
Yeah.
think.
Absolutely.
Like it's not even close. So
Yeah.
that is huge. And then for me personally, having played a lot of Breath of the Wild, I think I know kind of now approaching this world, which is obviously very similar and the same in many, many, many ways. I kind of know
Right.
what to avoid and not to waste my time with. You know, like
Hmm.
it's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
Korok seeds. I know what these do. I know. A lot of the mechanics are just exactly the same, or just like a
Yeah.
slightly different, like the Sheikah Slate versus the Pura Pad. It's like the same thing. Um,
Right.
so you could it could be levied. I'm not going to levy this, but it could be levied like this is a DLC. Like this
Okay.
takes so many of the things of Breath of the Wild and changes nothing. Like this is
Hmm.
that game at the core, more so than a lot of other sequels. Um, but there again the Ultra Hand and Fuse specifically are incredibly game changing. The way
Yeah.
that you can approach any situation, any puzzle, any shrine, and be like, oh, there's not one, two, three solutions. There's like nine or 13
Hmm.
or what. It's just like you can approach it however you want. And that kind
Yeah.
of was always Breath of the Wild's thing, but it's just so much. It's so much in a better focus in this game with these
It seems
abilities.
to it definitely seems to a much greater degree this time around because there's been a few times where I've done either a shrine or a puzzle, and I've said to myself, this is not going to work. This is not how you do it, and then it works, and I'm thinking that's probably not the way that they intended me
Yeah.
to do it, but I did it and it worked.
Uh-huh. One funny thing, I may have told you this, Logan, or in a text or something, I can't remember, but this was very early in the game. I was just kind of learning things, and I had to cross like a decent sized river. So I chopped down a tree and got one single log and put
Hmm.
one single rocket on the back part of the log, thinking I would just get on it and cross the river. So I hit it off, and the rocket immediately goes flying off the log, picks me up, and like I'm standing on top of the rocket as like I go across the river, and it
Yeah,
takes me across as I'm standing on the rocket. Just I let that log like way behind. And so I'm like, well,
yeah,
that worked. That's not how I thought was going to happen, but that
yeah.
worked.
I it's so funny how just I'm at a loss for words. Let me get into my experience a little bit with this
Sure.
game real quick because when I first started playing it for the first 10 hours or something, I was like, I don't think I like this game. I just don't like the weapon durability this time around. Just a lot of the things weren't clicking. I'm like, why does the game look meh in a lot of the places? Why am I dropping frames? Um, just little things that annoy me. But then I realized as I kind of kept playing and getting more used to it, I was like, this is actually really cool. Oh, I can fuse this into this. Oh, I can do this into this. Oh, this is one big, just, you hear about these sandbox type games, and this is a true sandbox in the very truest sense because this game encourages you to tinker and experiment with so many different things that are going on that a lot of times when you say, I wonder if I do this, what will happen, you're rewarded for
Right.
it because you're going to see something really cool. And I think it does this to a better degree than what Breath of the Wild even did. In that in a lot of ways, I think Tears of the Kingdom is the superior game because of how refined a lot of its systems are. The physics things, I mean, you can tell it's really well polished.
Right.
Apparently, this game was ready like a year or so ago, but they took an extra year to make sure the physics and everything worked. And you can tell because a lot of this stuff is crazy how it works. And it's wild at how big of a playground this game is, to the point where, I checked the clock thing before I got on the recording, and apparently I put 40 hours
Okay.
into this game, and I'm like, I didn't. Well, I. mhm, okay, fair enough. I thought I was only like 20 hours in,
Same.
so I mean, it's gotten to a point now where I'm having a blast with it. I'm like, this game is freaking dope. A lot of the criticisms I had early on, don't really care. The I do wish, I will say this game definitely does show the Switch needs some hardware updates in some major ways, because I don't think the game is as crisp or as beautiful as what it could be
Yeah.
if it was on a little bit more powerful hardware. That being said, that doesn't really take away from the game or the enjoyment of it, because
No.
again, I'm 40 hours in and I'm like, I've got to go find some more Dragon Tears. I've got all these different little devices that I've got, and I want to link them together and figure out what I can do with some of these things. I think that's part of the fun, is just
You
bashing things together and see what
you know
happens.
you have a good open world game when you're like, oh man, I want to go do main quest stuff. Oh, and I want to go do this side quest over here. Oh, and that woman was talking about these
Yep.
clothes I can find. I want to do that. And
Yep.
oh, and then
Yep.
there's this, there's like I'm constantly pulled in 5 different directions in this game, and I
Yep.
truly want to
Yep.
go in all 5.
Yep.
It's a really really special game. A lot of people, like I said earlier, hold Breath of the Wild as like the greatest game ever. I don't even think close to that, but I would maybe consider this to at least be in the conversation if you kind of still
Yeah.
kind of hold that about these 2 pairs of games, this one pair of games, I should say. Um,
Hmm.
Man, I was about to make a point earlier where you were talking and it kind of left me, Logan. But the story, I'm consuming the main quest faster this time around
Okay.
compared to Breath. And I think that's
Yeah.
one reason I'm kind of hooked a little bit more.
Yeah.
The tears, like you said, on kind of the grass, like the glyphs on the grass, whatever, all that stuff is cool. Um,
Hmm.
let's see what else. I mean, there's lots of neat stuff. The like you said, the encouraging you to experiment with like Fuse and different Ultra Hand stuff is just so
Hmm.
rewarding, especially Fuse. I'm just like, all right, I'm in the air, I'm pulling my boat. Let me just go cycle through anything and just pick something I haven't tried yet and just
Yep.
shoot it off and let's see what happens. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, that's highly encouraged. So if you like to address some of the criticism, like if you haven't played this game yet, if you're one of the few, I guess it sold like 10 million
I mean, it's sold like 10 million.
if you
Grief,
haven't played
dude.
it and you have like, well, I have some criticisms about Breath of the Wild. Let me address some of those because I had some too, obviously. The weapon breaking, I think, in this game is improved because of fusing. If you have a weapon that's
Yep.
about
That's
to
what I was going to bring
break,
up.
simply fuse it with anything in your inventory and you got a brand new weapon that's not about to break and it's better.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
has, for me, a critic of the weapons breaking system has almost alleviated that whole issue. It's almost not an issue
Hmm.
now. Um,
Yeah.
like slipping while when it's raining while climbing, like yeah, that's still a thing, but there's just way more, like it's way easier to engage with like the potions and the cooking and everything else that
Hmm.
you need to do to overcome that, you know.
And when you open up your cooking, I don't know if it's when you open up your materials tab or what it is, but you can pull up like an actual recipe thing that you get, like a Rolodex sort of thing you can cycle through. So if you forgot how you made certain potions or food
Mhm.
items, you can scroll through it and like, oh, this is what I did. So let me
you,
get those
you
real
know
quick and then
or
drop
again,
it in
going back
there.
to the abilities, this is one small spoiler for a fuse ability, but if you take a Zonai rocket and fuse it to a shield and use it, it just shoots you straight up in the
Dude,
air.
you turn into Iron Man. It's so
It's
cool.
like, so like who needs climbing when you can just do that? Like there's so many solutions. So um
You know what? You know what's been my favorite thing to do?
hmm.
So you know how in Breath of the Wild there was shield surfing, right? That was a huge thing.
Oh
I loved shield
yeah.
surfing. So much fun. I found out that when you fuse a bomb flower plant, which shout out to the bomb flower plants returning to the
Yeah.
game. When you fuse one of those to your shields and you jump and then go to shield surf, the bomb explodes, shoots you up in the air so you can glide and just keep going. I've done that so many
Yeah.
times to get around, and it's so stinking cool,
Yeah.
man. It's just the little things like that. I'm like, dude, this game is so dadgum cool. Fusing a
I
cart
think
to your shield so you have a
I
skateboard,
think you can hook.
bro.
I don't think this was in Breath. You can hook up like a carriage, like hook up to your horse so that they can pull a carriage, like a cart. I
Hmm.
think that's
Hmm.
new in this game.
Yeah. Super helpful. Oh my
Like
goodness.
there are so many things that are like, yep, this is familiar. This is Breath of the Wild, like the stables and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. But then there's so many things that they change, and we haven't even talked about the Sky Islands and the depths and all
Oh,
that kind
dude.
of stuff. And like
Yeah.
that's the Sky Islands are some of my favorite things to explore so far, and just mess
Yeah.
around up there and just kind of bounce around to the islands as I can. I've found some of the cooler puzzles and just discoveries up there so far.
Yeah.
So shout out to the Sky Islands. Man, I love this game. Like I said, 30 hours in,
Yeah.
and there is no way I'm only playing 60 hours of this game. Like
Yeah.
I'm loving it, like truly. So I'm sort of like, I mean, I still have the same opinion about Breath of the Wild, but I'm kind of shocked about how much I've changed my opinion on this follow up, which
Yeah.
is so similar, but yet so like different. And
There's just a lot more to it,
yeah,
man. And one of the nice things about it is dungeons are finally back. Dude, have you gotten to do any of the dungeons I've
yeah,
done? The Wind and Fire Temple.
yeah. So I guess maybe that's a small spoiler, but I think it's out there as far as temples and stuff. But
Mhm.
anyway, I've done the wind and I've done the water, and
Okay.
they're great. Um,
It's hard to talk
yeah,
about it without spoiling them.
exactly. Like again, I feel like we've already said too much, even in just mentioning those potentially, though you probably know. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, it's some of the very best video gaming there is.
Yeah,
Those missions.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, man. I'm not going to talk really anything about them. I'm just because you really got to experience. You got to not only experience the temples themselves, but the journey to get to them
Yes.
is so
Oh
unique
man.
and so dang cool. I I don't know. Again, I'm sitting there going like, I don't know how they made this part of the game so cool,
Mhm.
but they did, and I love it, man. I can't, man. It's so hard. Again, it's so hard to talk about it without spoiling things. But man, just let me say this: if you miss some of the old school Zelda stuff, that's where it's going to hit you. And I gotta say, I think they took some cues from Elden Ring, Dark Souls, and all that because I got some vibes from some of
Oh,
those in some areas. I'm like,
that reminds me. One of the best openings in a game in a while.
mhm,
But well, no, there's a lot of
dude,
good openings in video games. This game has a
sure,
fantastic opening, though. I will say, as a parental guide, my youngest son, who's about to be 8, he was a little frightened at the opening scene, if you know
yeah,
what I'm talking about.
dude. I was even frightened a little. I'm like, I mean, we had seen this already in some of the trailers, the initial like gameplay trailers and things like
Yeah.
that. But I don't know. There's a different impact when you're playing it yourself, and you're playing it in your room or whatever, and it's dark, and then the stuff goes down. And you're like, dude, this is taking me back to Majora's Mask, where it's a little dark, a little bit, man.
Mhm.
And there's some other things, and you'll see some stuff as you progress through the game and you get more of the story beats and things like that. But man, it's definitely a darker game
Mhm.
than Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild was kind of all a little more vibrant and colorful and a little more cheery, right? And you're kind of, climbing back and restoring things. This game is like, no, this is scary time.
Mhm.
There's still some fun stuff to be had,
Sure.
and some good bits, but yeah, that opening, dude, was something else. A lot of some shocking things
Yeah,
in that opening
another thing I'll add,
out of the
sorry,
gate.
I keep thinking of things, is I love how they have evolved all the towns and the townspeople, like the
Yes.
villagers, the
Yes.
inhabitants of these towns. Is it Kariko Village? Am I saying that right? Or
Kakariko
Kariko
Village.
Village? Yeah, sorry.
Mhm.
The Zoran people, every like there's so all the way that they have evolved the towns is really
Yeah.
cool. I think compared
Yeah.
to what they had with Breath. So shout out to the towns in this game. I like you said, I do bemoan a little bit some of the performance and graphic stuff. Like I think I said on the air, like if it was just up to me, I may have waited to get this game on the inevitable Switch follow up next year,
Right.
because this game's going to be a launch game for it.
Yeah.
And and kind of, just play it for the first time there. But, so
Mhm.
if you can like really wait for that, like, I might recommend that. But if you are just itching, I would say dive in, because this is a true 10 out of 10.
Mhm.
Fantastic game.
Yeah, man. It's really sticking good. Before we transition to the news roundup, dude, I got to know because I've seen this all over social media. I've seen it all over TikTok. Um, have you tortured any of the Koroks? The
No,
ones that are like, oh, dude, you got to try it at
no,
least once. It's so much
I'm a
fun.
Christian, Logan.
They're like, I need to get to my friend. It's like, oh, you're gonna get to him. Just it's gonna be a while before you do it. You know. Let me recommend this to those of you listening that are playing and haven't done this yet. Because you have the Ultra Hand, you can fuse things together, right? If you have a rocket handy, grab a Korok, fuse them to the rocket, launch them up in the air, have fun,
Oh man,
enjoy. It's a good
fireworks!
time.
Let's go.
I saw someone fuse a series of like the rotating wheel things together, and they had a couple Koroks attached to each wheel, and it was just rotating around, and there was like the fire breathers underneath it shooting up at the Koroks. And I'm like, dude, y'all are crazy, but we all know I'm gonna go try that when I play the
The
game
internet
next.
has taken over this game, and like the creations that are coming out are both disturbing and hilarious at the same
Yep.
time. So yeah.
Yep. Absolutely, man. Also, one thing I do want to shout out, this isn't really a spoiler, it's just like a fun little sign thing that kind of comes up. And I can't remember this character's name, but you'll come across this character who's holding up signs every now and then
Addison.
that you have. Addison, thank you. And you have to like piece things together to help the sign stay standing so he can build something on. Dude, I thought this was the dumbest thing when I first started doing it, but I found myself doing more of them and more
Yep.
of them and more of them. And I'm like, never mind. I
I
love
love
these.
you,
These are so
Addison. I'm here
charming.
to help you. Was it President?
Yep.
What's his name? Hudson?
President something. I can't remember. It's been so long since I did one, but yeah, I just so funny, man. And just that's the thing, man. I've heard people say, oh, it's a DLC, and I'm just like, dude, with all the crap they've added, this feels like an expansion at the
Yeah,
very
no,
least.
the DLC. I just it like there's so many things about the game that are like one for one. This is how
Right.
like so it kind of could feel like that in a way. I'm not accusing it of that by in the slightest. Yeah.
Sure, sure. But there's definitely some of y'all on the internet that are like, man,
Yeah.
I don't get it, man. I can't talk about the stuff without spoiling it, man. So we'll save it for a later
Yeah, we'll
episode.
have
But
to have a later
gosh
episode
dang,
or a
dude,
spoiler cast or something to go
Uh,
into some of these.
I've I'll just say I've really come around to the game. When I first started, I was like, great opening, man. This is a rough start, and now here I am, 40 hours later. I'm like, no, you know what? That part of that was my fault. I should have mainlined some of the main quests because that would have helped progress a lot of things
Yeah.
a lot quicker, and it would have been smart of me. I'll say this as a bit of advice for those jumping in: try to get a horse as soon as you can, because that's going to help you out a lot. Because the game doesn't remember your construct. So what I mean is, if you make a wagon with a wind turbine on the back to move around the area and you go into a shrine, you come back out, that construct you made is gone. So just get a horse to save yourself the headache
Oh,
so you can get around
another quick
and
thing.
go
This
from
didn't
there.
happen in my game, or at least I didn't. I'm not sure if something went wrong, but anyway, my oldest daughter, booted up her game, and she had all of her horses from Breath of the Wild in the stable when she went there, that she had named and all that stuff. They were all there. Yeah,
What?
that didn't happen to me, and I'm not sure what triggers that, but like that was all there. I'm like, what? How? What? But yeah,
That's wild because I know I got a couple horses in Breath of the Wild. I must have. Well,
I
hopefully, I
need to
didn't
look
delete my
into that
save.
because I'm not sure how that was. I mean, I guess that's a cool feature, but anyway, I saw that and I was like, cool.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. So yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, awesome, awesome game. Listeners, let us know if you're playing it, what you think, and some of the inventive ways you've tortured some Koroks. Because let's be honest, we don't need to collect all 1,000 Korok seeds because
No.
that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. But Micah, dude, again, this is a smorgasbord of an episode, man. So let's kick it off here with some of the news.
Yeah, today, like 4 hours ago from when we're recording this, we just wrapped up the PlayStation Showcase, which was highly anticipated and just had a lot of hype going into it. And so, yeah, I wanted to hit the highlights here. So, first thing, and I'm going to go in kind of like my hype order slash is what I think is important.
Mhm.
But Well, actually, let's we have a write-in with this from Dorian. Let's hit. You want to hit that write-in first and just kind of do some general impressions
Yeah.
first?
Yeah, as always, you can write into the show over on patreon.com/thereformedgamers and all that jazz. The links will be in your show notes. Dorian Taylor writes in and says, so, with the PlayStation Showcase, what were you excited about? For me, there wasn't a ton, but Phantom Zero looked cool, as well as Metal Gear Solid Triangle Snake Eater. I'm so glad I'm not the only one that saw that and was like,
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid Triangle? What? Anyway, it's Delta, apparently. Nothing here said you need to buy a PS5. Spider-Man 2 looked good, but nothing that wasn't expected. I'm going to get into that because that gameplay.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Dorian goes on and says, all in all, it's a 7 for me. I'm wondering how the Xbox Showcase will look with expected games like Hellblade 2, Avowed, and some of the other things we know about that are expected to show. Appreciate y'all's comments and thoughts. I've got a couple things I was excited about, but man, Micah, let's get into it.
Before we dive in and kind of go through the major beats of what happened, just overall thoughts. I thought it was both a great showcase and a highly disappointing showcase, kind of at the same time.
Sounds about right.
I don't actually no. Well, I'll go ahead and get into this now. I'll go ahead and get into some of the disappointing stuff.
Okay.
Well, the great stuff is that for me personally, and I said this going into this, it's like if we get Spider-Man 2 gameplay, which we did, and if we get Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, which we did, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. Like I don't need literally anything else. Like I'm good to go personally. So for me,
I see you ripping that Metal Gear Solid shirt.
Let's
man.
go Metal Gear Solid. So for me, it was 10 out of 10. Like just and then all the other games that they showed were like really, really up my alley, like Alan Wake 2, Marathon, that new game Sword of the Sea from Giant Squid, like things like that. Lots of stuff that's like, ooh, that's Micah written all over it. So I really loved it from that perspective. But on the flip side of the coin, there could have been / should have been so much more, not just from Sony first party, but I think the other publisher who kind of wet the bed, so to speak, was Square Enix. When they showcased that Splatoon ripoff and didn't show and showcased Final Fantasy 16 and didn't show any Final Fantasy 7 remake. We didn't have, like, it was rumored that we might finally get the Final Fantasy 9 remake or the Final Fantasy Tactics remaster. That didn't happen. No Kingdom Hearts 4, which had already been announced. Like nothing big like that you would want. We got Final Fantasy 16 and this turd Splatoon ripoff. So I jotted this down as a side comment here. I was looking, I was like, okay, so we got something from Insomniac, Haven Studios, and Firewalk. Those are the 3 internal PlayStation studios we saw. And you could say that, like, we barely saw anything from Haven and Firewalk. They showed some CG concept trailers.
That was one of my biggest gripes about it. I'm like, this is a lot of CG trailers, not gameplay. Like, what in the world?
So Logan, here are the PlayStation studios that we did not hear from today: Bend, Bluepoint, Firesprite, Guerrilla, Housemarque, London Studio, Media Molecule, Naughty Dog, Polyphony, San Diego Studio, Santa Monica Studio, Sucker Punch, and Team Asobi. That's 13. PlayStation has, kind of, depending on how you want to divide it up, like 16 primary studios, not counting Bungie. 3 of them went today. 3 out of 16 studios showed stuff at today's showcase that has been pent up for a year and a half. And one of them was Insomniac, who's like been carrying the whole generation and has already delivered 2 other games this gen.
Yeah.
Am I missing something? Where are the other games from first party? Like, and you could even toss in Death Stranding wasn't even there.
Yeah. I think what I was most surprised about was the fact that we didn't see anything about the Last of Us factions. And I'm like, dude, where is this game at?
Yeah.
Like, I going into this, because again, and I want people to kind of understand this, because they might be thinking like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. They marketed this as a PlayStation showcase, not a state of play showcase. We haven't had one of these since, like, what, 2021?
September 2021.
2020. So it's been a while. And yet here we are. And this is what they lead off with, a showcase with that. I'm all about the hot takes and being a little blunt when it's necessary. This felt more like a slightly ramped up state of play in a couple ways for me. I was like, it's got some cool things, it's got some zingers, but a lot of this stuff, I'm like,
Right. That's where I'm at.
what happened here?
That's where I'm kind of like wrestling with. I did like what was shown, but you
Hmm.
shouldn't have been showing that. Like I like Sword
Hmm.
of the Sea, I like Neva, I like Phantom Blade O or Zero, excuse me. You know,
Hmm.
Helldivers 2 looked great, but that's not the stuff you needed to show me. You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you said, where's The Last of Us? Where's this rumored Uncharted game? What's Blue Point working on? Where's this other house or where's this other Gorilla and Santa Monica game? Like,
Let me also throw this in. Where in the world is Bloodborne on PS5 or even PC or just some kind of patch? Like,
yeah.
we've been asking for this, begging for this for years
Oh,
now, and we still don't have it.
and
And what in the
not
world?
only that, and again, the ones that were shown, fine. What I'm
Hmm.
transitioning to is the VR section, like Resident Evil 4 VR, cool. That game Synapse,
Hmm.
cool. But bro,
Hmm.
where's Team Asobi with some Astrobot Rescue Mission 2? Where's Half Life Alex? Where's these? Yeah, they
Yeah.
had Beat Saber. We all knew Beat Saber was coming. Like again, me as a VR PSVR 2 owner, I'm looking at this. I'm like, that's not good enough.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep. Dang,
huge
dude.
missed opportunities, I think, as far as
Yeah.
overall. But with that said, we've got some good stuff to chop up here. So let's
That.
dive
That.
into it, Logan. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
they're dropping the
Hmm.
3, inserting Delta in there. Not
Hmm.
weird at all. This
No.
is for Xbox and PC as well. And
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
didn't have
Hmm.
a date, but I saw Andy Robinson over at VGC claims this is a 2024 game. So take
I'm
that
cool with
with a
that.
grain of salt.
Cool with that.
This was a teaser, a CG teaser, where it showed like some ants crawling in, then a bird swooping up, and then a snake eating the bird, then a crocodile eating the snake, and then it drifts over and shows our boy Naked Snake sitting there in
Yep.
the swamp, and then the tune
Yep.
starts. What a thrill!
I so let me say this about this because we streamed this. Micah streamed this showcase into our Discord server. Again, link to that will be in your show notes. And I couldn't jump in because I was busy setting stuff up over at my school. And when I joined in, they're like, "Oh, dude, Metal Gear Solid 3 got shown early in the thing. You have to go back and watch." I was like, "Cool." So I went back and watched it, the showcase, the stuff that I'd missed after we had finished up, and I was just kind of like skipping through kind of quickly a little bit, and I got to this one, and I'm like, ants, birds, this is weird. And I just kept skipping through it, and then I saw a snake, and I'm like, "Oh, this was Metal Gear Solid 3. Let me go back all the way
Yeah,
then." And then I got to it and it played that What a Thrill song. I'm like, oh, it feels so good to hear that again. Dude,
yeah.
looks good. I hope this is what the game looks like because,
Dude,
oh,
it was
that's
so
beautiful.
it had me going. If I was because I was streaming, the audio wasn't. I couldn't fully hear everything, so I think I would have picked it
Hmm.
out because there were some audio cues that let you know straight up that this was Snake Eater from the very beginning. But
Hmm.
it took me a while to figure it out. Obviously, it was when the crocodile ate the snake. That I'm like, oh, this is Snake Eater. But anyway,
Hmm.
I literally said on the stream, like the birds in flight with the frog, and it's like, about a good 20 seconds in, I'm like, this certainly is a video game trailer. Like not knowing what it is.
It's definitely one of those things where it's very misleading,
Yeah,
but
it reminded
it
me a
works.
little bit of the original reveal trailer for Resident Evil 2 remake, where you started off as that rat and everything in the
Ah,
cupboard
yeah.
or the shelving and stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. It looks like it's developed internally by Konami from everything I can glean. Like there wasn't some other developer
Hmm.
attached to this. It's just like Konami's making it.
Right.
So hopefully they do a
Right.
good job. And
Don't mess it up.
yeah, so that was kind of towards the beginning, middle, and then what closed the show. The other big one, of course, Spider-Man 2. Logan, well, let me
Dude.
kind of do the preliminaries. And I'll kick it right to you, Logan. They didn't do a date, which was a big disappointment.
That was
Only
disappointing.
fall 2023, which tells me this game is coming in hot, I think. But I'm just going to kick this to you, Logan. What were your impressions? We got 13 minutes of this game.
Dude, I so again, they're good at misleading me with some of these trailers. It opened up in the forest. This guy was going through. I'm like, what kind of game is this? Spider-Man? How is this Spider? I was like, maybe this is Wolverine. This is because I can see Wolverine going through the forest, cutting people up, kind of guerrilla ops thing. With when he was with oh, what was it? It's not Weapon X. What was that division? I forget what it was in the comics, but he was with Sabretooth and Deadpool when he was
Right.
with some other people. Um, but no, come to find out, this was how they introduced Craven the Hunter. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
man.
dude, my boy Craven's looking good, looking scary, mean. And they mention, time for a new hunt. It shows New York. It shows the different characters within the Spider-Man verse. We saw a little thing on there. I was like trying to glance at all the different names that were coming up. We saw Black Cat, two different Spider-Man, some of the characters. And I'm like, that's Lizard. Is Lizard in this game? And then it goes to, Craven and his crew rolling up on this house, and they're like, secure the locations and stuff. You see these doors going down to a basement that are kind of, it looks like something had broken through. And then you see it. This is my favorite freaking suit in the entire Spider-Man unit. Well, next to Iron Spider and Spider-Man 2099 suit. But you see Spider-Man come out in the black symbiote suit, and man, they nailed that suit
Yes.
with some of the parts that is like kind of pulsating a little bit. Bro, he comes out and he's like, his voice, you can tell Yuri's voice is different. He's like, I told you not to come after Kurt, and now you're going to pay the price. And I'm like, dude, he's already sounding aggressive. You see him doing these moves. I'm like, he's way more violent with the black suit. I'm like, dude, they nailed this. And dude, this trailer was everything I needed for this game. You're swapping between Miles and Peter in some of these really cool ways. They have the web wings where they're
Yes,
gliding,
dude.
which is like a throwback to the early suits in the comics. And I'm just like, this game looks so much fun. And I brought this up when we were watching it. I was like, a lot of us were getting major Uncharted 4 vibes when they're kind of going through that town, and there's Jeeps, and then Drake's kind of climbing the rope, trying to get on the Jeep, getting dragged to the mud. They're sliding around. There's all this action going on. There was so much going on that I got to go back and watch this thing again, man,
Yeah.
because it was a lot of
I
fun. It looked
I
really
just
good.
rewatched it again for the second time in 4K right before we hit record because I just
Mm,
needed to see it again.
mm,
Insomniac is has always been great at these E3 style presentations. When you think back to the not the original Spider-Man reveal, but the first gameplay sequence we got, where like the yellow
mhm.
crane is falling on in the streets and he webs it,
Yep.
like that thing was the same kind of like, what are we watching right now? Holy smokes!
Yep.
And you think back even to like other games, like whether it be Sunset Overdrive, I'm even thinking of like Resistance 2. Like there was a huge bombastic spectacle E3 presentation that Insomniac whipped up. Like they're so good at this sort of stuff.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so I was not disappointed in the slightest from what I saw.
No,
Like I was highly encouraged. In fact,
not at
as soon
all.
as you originally see that, all right, you can swap to Miles, and then you do, and the first thing Miles does is he takes two webs, pulls back like a slingshot, and rockets himself through the
So
sky
cool.
like a Halo man cannon. It's or like
Mhm.
a Tears of the Kingdom man cannon.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It is, oh man, dude.
And a nice little touch to that too. You notice the transition when they switch characters, the music shifts to where, Peter's a little more kind of cinematic quality and stuff, and it switches to Miles and it's more like hip hop kind of. It's still got that energy to it of like urgency. We're like, crap, you need to get to where Doc Connors is to help him out.
Yeah,
But it's got that kind of hip hop vibe to it. I'm like, dude, I love how you can tell playing as both Peter and Miles is going to feel drastically different, especially when you get the black suit, because you're doing these things with the you're shooting out the symbiote tentacles,
right.
you're having them come around to guard you and protect you, and you're doing all these things, dude. It's
Well, Miles had new moves as well compared to his
yep,
original
he has
adventure.
extra
So,
powers,
like when you take the symbiote suit and Miles's new, it's gonna feel really fresh. I think. Um,
dude. How about creating your own little zip lines with the webs when
yeah,
you're doing the stealth
I
thing?
love
Oh
that.
my
The
gosh,
little the
dude.
gadget he tossed down, Miles tossed down in between the three guards, and it all zipped them up into one.
Yep.
That was cool. Going back to the symbiote suit having the effect on Peter, and Yuri changing his voice and everything. Like, there was other little things too. Like, he was always really short with Miles. Like, any kind of reply. One
Yep.
time he snatched something from my thing. Peter rescues that one dude toward the end of the trailer and kind of just like tosses him down, like where he falls
Yeah.
over. Like, doesn't like
Yeah.
set him down nicely like Spider-Man would. Stuff like, it's like little things like that. It's like, oh man, dude, this is good with the symbiote suit.
Yeah. And I loved how it ended. And Miles, Peter was about to go off after Lizard, and Miles is like, "That guy's got big teeth," and he just goes, "So do I." And he goes off. I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
dude, we're gonna get Venom in this game. It's
Yeah,
gonna be so
and you can
good."
tell like there's already, you start off with Craven, Venom is in the game obviously, and like
Yep.
and you got
Yep.
Lizard, so like we're already they mentioned Harry Osborn in the, which is obviously
Yep.
part of the first game. Like they're scratching the surface of the story, so I know we're about to go to crazy town.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about that. 10 out of 10 could not have been a better presentation for Spider-Man 2, I don't
Yeah.
think.
I got to be honest. After this, like, I'm good not seeing anything else, dude. That was enough to.
Yeah.
I mean, I was already hooked already because Venom's in it. Venom is one of my favorite Marvel characters of all time. So seeing him in that initial trailer was like, dude, let's go. But seeing this, I'm like,
Considering it's
dude.
so close, I'm with you. Like, give me a good story trailer, and then I'm good. I don't need to see nothing else.
Yep. Yep.
So
Oh, dude,
Spider-Man
so
2 did not disappoint, other than no date.
Yeah.
Anything
Yeah.
else you want to say about that before we move on?
I just, if y'all haven't watched this trailer, go watch it. It's so stinking good, man. I was like,
Yeah.
So good.
Okay, next
So
up, this was smack in the middle of the presentation. I feel like a lot of people were getting at this point. We're getting kind of lulled. Like, man, are we gonna like? Where's the good stuff? Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then there's this character kind of running through this hallway, and then he runs
Mm-hmm.
by the Bungie sign, and it's like, whoa, Bungie, okay, what is this? Like, this isn't
Yep.
Destiny, clearly. So they announced Marathon, which is an old IP that Bungie created way back when they were making Apple games, before Halo, all that kind of stuff. And man, this is I'm a big Marathon fan. I played Marathon and Marathon 2 when they came out. I loved those games. So this, while it isn't, there's no single player here. It's a sci-fi PvP extraction shooter is how they're describing it. It's coming out for everything: PS5, Xbox Series, PC. And it was kind of a teaser trailer, thematic kind of, let you see the tone. What'd you think of Marathon here, Logan?
It's funny. I was watching. I was like, "Oh, dude, are they finally showing off Marathon? It's about time, man!" And then just seeing it, I'm like, "Dude, I am loving this art style.
Yeah.
This is very cyberpunk, but really bright colors and just really sci-fi. Man, it looked cool, but I never played Marathon. I've always heard people talk about it and just gush over it and how much they loved it. So I'm excited to get into it. I wish we could have seen some gameplay, but maybe it just wasn't ready to. They weren't ready to show any gameplay just yet. But that trailer was cool. That trailer was definitely cool.
Yeah.
So it's on my radar. I'm going to keep an eye out for it, and I'm looking forward to seeing more about it.
Yeah. We'll see. Kind of, didn't have much info as far as date and all that kind of stuff either. Capcom showed off Dragon's Dogma 2. Which I think had been said, like, yeah, we're making it, but not actually. We haven't seen anything for it. So this was the debut, and I'll be frank, Logan, this trailer kicked butt. Like, this looked really good. I didn't play the first Dragon's Dogma, but I am on board to try this one for sure.
I'm open to other people trying it.
Man,
here's my thing, man. When it comes to like high fantasy stuff like that, I'm not typically into that sort of stuff. Things like The Witcher, I did like. Of course, Brandon Sanderson is slowly bringing down those barriers and getting me into it. So I may pick this up and be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But I was sitting there watching it, I'm like, this is cool. But I'm gonna wait and kind of see what people say about it when they pick it up, and that'll help me determine. But I'll say this: it is a beautiful game, beautiful looking.
Well, if that didn't catch your attention, maybe Alan Wake 2 did, which
dude,
which launches October 17th.
Dude,
This game, we knew it existed. We got the teaser trailer back at the Game Awards, I think, or one of Jeff
I think
Keighley's
so. Yeah.
things, and we didn't have a
Yeah.
date, so we got the date October 17th, really
Mm-hmm.
close.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that, like I feel like Spider-Man could be October 17th, so I really kind of wish we would have gotten a
Yeah.
date there, but I digress. This trailer looked awesome.
So good. So
It
good.
so
Yeah.
they've already said Remedy, Sam Lake, excuse me, someone has already said that this is like their stab at a true survival horror game. So
Mm-hmm.
that and then when you see the gameplay of this, like it looks
Mm-hmm.
like The Last of Us or modern Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Like yeah, I know
Yeah.
it's it was always over the shoulder with the first game. It just looks more like that, I guess.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
looked I mean Sam Lake is straight up in it in the trailer. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, thoughts on Alan Wake 2, Logan?
Dude, I loved the first game when that came out on the 360. Again, shout out to the Xbox 360. Dude, I ate that game up. It was right up my alley because again, I like my survival horror games, and Alan Wake was trippy enough to where it was kind of like what's that show, Twin Peaks?
Yeah.
A little play on that in some regard, but just creepy enough to where I'm like, dude, this is so fascinating. I'm intrigued. I'm loving this. And then when they did the remaster thing, I was like, of course I'm going to pick that up and play through that again.
Yeah.
Which is what I plan to do over the summer. But I loved Alan Wake. So seeing Alan Wake 2, just I'm here for it, man. Give me October 17th, get here. Not too soon though. I want to enjoy my summer. Then we can get to
Yeah.
it.
Perfect Halloween game. So yeah.
Yeah.
Alan Wake
Yeah.
2. Okay, so the two games I'm about to mention, I think Sony would call these big boy games.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think they failed to impress the general audiences. The
Mm-hmm.
debut games from Haven and the debut game from Firewalk, two of Sony's newest studios. So from Haven, we got this game. It opened the whole show. It's called Fair Games. And here's the quote from the official outlet. It says, "Fair Games is a competitive modern heist game where you team up to break into exotic locations and steal the cargo. The twist? You not only need to outsmart guards and security systems, but you also compete against other teams. Crews that extract with the most loot and flair might just rise to the top of Fair Games." So that's kind of the tagline there. We'll start with Fair Games, Haven Studios. Oh, Logan, wake up, Logan, wake up.
I'm sorry, man. I continue. That was just not up my alley at all.
That
It
was
just,
perfect. That was perfect. You know what? Let's just move on to Firewalk's game, Concord. No, I mean there really wasn't much to say. It was a CG trailer. It seemed like I mean we've all been like a CG trailer for this nebulous like live service multiplayer game. Like there's so many
yeah.
of those these days. It's just
Yeah.
we
I'm just like, cool.
yeah.
It's there. Just
All these
wake me up
sort of
when you
trailers
have
do
stuff
is
to
like let
show.
you know what the art style is like and a little bit of the themes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
Yeah.
that's not much to go off of.
No, it's
With
not.
that said, the themes and the art style of Concord, the game from Firewalk, did look better to me. This is like kind of like
Yeah.
reminded me of like a little bit of Starfield, a little bit of some of the imagery. But
Mhm.
this is a PvP multiplayer first person shooter coming to PS5 and PC in 2024. Again, not much to say. Go check out the trailer, the teaser. It's better than Fair Games, I think. But yeah, not really
Sorry.
nothing to get you excited about.
You said PvP multiplayer first person shooter, and I started just dozing off a little bit there because I don't know. I don't know if it's because I'm old now or what, man. I can't get into these kind of games anymore.
Well,
Man.
this
I try.
what Colin Moriarty has been saying about like Sony's got stuff to say, but I don't think you're gonna like what they're gonna have to say.
Yeah.
When it comes to this live service kind of stuff. If you're used to their first person their single player output, then you might not be a fan of these types of games. And so I think this is kind of where we're sitting on these two guys.
Yeah. But again, as always with these, I hope these games come out and they're really good and they make me well, I didn't really say any words there, so I guess they hope they make me eat my my snores, I guess,
Yeah.
And so it is what it is, but I need to see more. These initial trailers we got just weren't doing anything for me personally.
So we've got a smattering of other games to talk about. Logan, pick one or two out that kind of were highlights for you.
Bro, I've got to talk about these two. Helldivers 2. Dude, that trailer was hilarious. When Helldivers 1 came out, I played it on the Vita quite a bit and really enjoyed it. And of course, got distracted by other things and just never got around to it again. But I'd always heard Helldivers 2 was going to be coming out, and we've heard that year after year after year. It's nice to finally see it. And I got to say, man, it looks really cool.
It looks really
I
good.
loved it.
Now, the trailer made Helldivers 2 look like a third-person over-the-shoulder shooter, but it's still
Yeah,
going to be
and
that isometric kind of thing, right? Or
well, in the trailer, it says like this very small text there. It says like camera angle has been adjusted in some scenes for the game trailer.
okay,
I'm like, okay, good, because I mean, if you want to change the view, that's fine, but that's just not what I'm used to when I think of Helldivers. So, yeah, I thought that trailer landed perfectly. The humor was great. The gameplay looks fun. I'm ready to get back into it, man.
yeah,
That's gonna be a lot of fun.
yeah.
But did you ever play Helldivers, the
I
first
played
one?
a little bit and didn't really get into it.
Okay,
I needed a squad to roll with because it's a hard game.
gotcha.
You know, like friendly
Yeah,
fire is always on, for example, in that game.
yeah,
Like you can't turn it off. So like you got to really coordinate, and I didn't have a posse to roll with really.
yeah,
So I played an hour or two and just kind of bounced off of it.
yeah.
But the
Dude,
trailer for this one looks good.
when you said that you got to coordinate stuff, it always made me laugh how because you could call in like supply drops for weapons and things like that. If one of your comrades was like standing underneath a drop pod when it lands, it kills
Yeah,
them, and it's just funny how you could kill a teammate just by dropping in a rifle or whatever. It's so funny,
yeah,
man.
definitely.
But man, this other one it's hard to pick between these two, but I got to go with this one because I freaking loved Ghost
Yep.
Runner, and seeing Ghost Runner 2, I was like, bro, you get motorcycles now. Like, this game was fast enough already. We didn't need to speed things up, but we have it. It's here, and man, it looked good, dude. I'm ready for it, dude. I love Ghost Runner
Yeah.
so much. Such a cool game.
That was
Such a
kind of
cool game.
surprising to see that there. Just kind of I don't know, just wasn't really thinking about it, but that was a good one
Yeah.
for sure.
And we are back. As you probably can see if you're watching this on YouTube, we look totally different. That's because during recording, the sirens went off in my town and letting us know there's a tornado coming around. And so I had to seek shelter. And obviously, I'm okay. I'm not a ghost. I'm not a
Glad you're
hologram.
safe, Logan. Glad you're safe.
It was wild. I was tempted to keep recording and be like, man, how long can I last out this weather? But no, the weather was pretty bad. It's pretty wild. Not as wild as a little bit more wild than the PlayStation showcase. But let's get back into it, man. Let's talk about this one game that honestly, when I saw it, I immediately thought of you. I was like, this has got Micah written all over it.
Yeah,
This is Micah's game.
right. If you know me, you know exactly what Logan's talking about. The new game from Giant Squid, which is titled Sword of the Sea. I literally thought I said out loud in the stream, like, "Is this Journey 2?"
Yeah.
And the art is the artist is the same, from that game company and the other games like Abzu and the Pathless, which are sort of kind of like Journey in a lot of ways. Anyway, same composer Austin Wintry doing this game as those other games as well. So it's got a lot of that pedigree. It looks like a cross between, not a cross, but it's like Journey meets skateboarding.
Yeah.
Is what it looks
Yeah.
like, or
Very cool.
snowboarding maybe it would be a better corollary. But like, there's literally like a half pipe in sections of the desert or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it looks very chill. And if you know Giant Squid and their pedigree, you sort of know what you're probably signing up for. But this is another reason why, like, I'm really torn about the showcase. Like, in one hand, like, I saw a lot of great Micah games, but I totally get like the disappointment that is part of it as well.
Yeah. I will say though, when I saw this and I was like, from the people who did Abzu, Journey, I'm like, dude, sold. I loved Abzu. I love Journey. I know there was another game they mentioned, and I can't remember the name of it at the moment. But yeah, looked great.
Yeah,
Looked awesome.
I think
really
it was
good.
the Pathless slogan.
That's what it was. Yeah, that's another great one. I keep forgetting about that game, and I need to not do that. That was a really good game.
Yeah, it was a good game, and boy, I had another thought, and it literally just went away. Never mind. We can move on.
Fair enough, man. So I feel like we got to talk about this one thing that when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is kind of, hold up, this looks Oh, now I know why this feels a little familiar. The Project Q thing, which I think what was the project name? Was it just Q Light that we were all
Q
thinking it was?
Light was the report going around. Yeah.
Yeah, so man, kind of refresh some of the listeners who maybe didn't get to see this or don't really know what this Project Q thing is.
Yeah, basically, it is a Wi-Fi remote play streaming device for the PS5 specifically. There's no mention of PS4. I
Hmm.
guess it could come out later that it's for that as well. But
True.
it's got basically it is got an 8-inch LCD display, 1080p, 60 FPS, and it looks like they took the DualSense wireless controller, literally split it in half, and then
Hmm.
stuck this screen in between of it, fuse style, like Tears of the Kingdom,
Yeah.
and and it has all the features of the DualSense controller, all the bells and whistles, and it's supposedly there's this, and I'm speaking somewhat ignorantly, but going off of what I've heard, specifically Matty Plays over at Defining Duke, he has been talking about this. There are these now dedicated remote play Wi-Fi devices that are
Yeah.
way better than just using like a backbone with your phone, apparently.
Hmm.
And so I think this is one of those.
Okay.
But will it have traction? I don't have much interest in playing God of War in bed or anything like that. What do you think,
Yeah.
Logan?
I mean, shout out to PK in the universe over on Twitter for pointing out that Nintendo. I mean, it's funny you brought up the Fusion thing. I'm like, oh, that's a Nintendo property. I feel like in a way this is also a Nintendo property because it just makes me think of the Wii U because it doesn't. It
Yeah,
seems like it's just for the PS5, so you can only stream games from that to the thing when you're connected to the internet. Granted, I mean this might let you take it on the go so you can play it kind of like a Steam Deck or something like that, which would be a nice use for it. But I'm kind of with you, man. I don't really have a use for this or don't really have a want for it. Also, because anytime I've personally tried the remote play stuff on my phone or iPad, it's been laggy and I just have
right.
never gotten it to work really just as seamless as I want it to within reason. And so
Right.
I
And
don't really have
time
a
will
desire.
tell, but I think this is sort of kind of that's speaking to what I was sort of saying. I think maybe they think they've solved it a little bit more with some of these type devices, but I digress. I don't think like this thing would have to be $100 to be popular,
Hmm.
which is not going to be because the DualSense controller is what 70 already. so
Right. Yeah.
so I mean, it's just not going to be $100. If they hit 150, I could see some people looking its way and grabbing one, but 200
Hmm.
plus is a big ask for what this thing does, I
Absolutely.
think.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna have to have more features than that because if it's 200, I mean, right there you're half the price of I think just a base Steam Deck, which I mean basically does a lot more than kind of what we're seeing at
Right.
the first glance here. So I
Right.
don't know, I don't know. Time will tell.
Yeah, and that's really that's not all that the showcase had, but that's all we're going to go over. And Logan, I thought just this kind of came to me since we're talking about the Project Q. Maybe we should go right into John Hannon's question as far as the
Yeah.
write-ins.
Yeah, John Hannon writes in, by all accounts, the Steam Deck has been a pretty successful product for Valve and brought a lot more attention to that category of device. With the Asus ROG Ally being the only other entrant from a big name manufacturer, do you think other OEMs are waiting to see how things play out, or did Asus just beat them to the punch? And can that market sustain a lot of competition? Man, the Asus is one that I had kind of forgotten about. I know it was announced, had to have been shortly after the Steam Deck, because I feel like I've known about this for a while. I think I even made like a TRG meme of it where it was like, hey Nintendo, let me copy your homework, and then I posted that thing on it. And man, I feel like this is such a new market. I don't know if market's the right word, but it's such a new thing that I think a lot of people are still kind of waiting to see
Hmm.
how things are going to play out. I mean, the Switch really changed things, and it worked
Sure.
great for Steam Deck and how they're doing things. And the Asus one looks pretty good. I was looking at some stuff for that prior to recording this. I was like, this looks pretty cool. I mean, we'll know more once it comes out, but
Right. And
I
I think
think,
pre-orders or just regular live orders went live semi recently. I want to
yeah,
say for
yeah,
the Ally. Obviously, I was about to say friend of the show, really just TRG family, Adam Sutherland. He was saying he was very interested in getting one and trying one out. given his love for the Steam Deck. And he was even talking about in one of our threads about he might sell his Series X or something to go get one. He hadn't decided yet, but
Yeah.
anyway, he's looking at one of these. If he gets one, I think we should kind of maybe try to get him back on the show and talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
But
That'd be
to
cool.
answer your question, John, how does the market react to this? And is there more room for competition and stuff? I think Steam, was kind of in, a unique position, or I should say Valve was in a unique position with the Steam Deck because of Steam just existing,
Yeah.
period. And just the tie that it had to the handheld and the ubiquity there with that interface and that whole ecosystem. So it had a leg up being successful. It was sort of a natural fit when you heard it announced. It's like, oh yeah, this will probably do pretty good, and it
Yeah.
did. The Ally, time will tell. We'll see. I need to do a little bit. I need to educate myself a little bit more on the Ally and make sure I'm kind of up to speed on kind of what it's offering compared to the Steam Deck.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think the market could have a few more entrants, but I don't know how successful they'll necessarily be.
Yeah.
So I think it takes a Valve to kind of pierce this market in the way that it does. So if they have a Steam Deck follow up where they keep iterating on it, I think that thing will keep on building steam. Sorry for the pun.
Nice. But yeah, that kind of rounds out our discussion here on the PlayStation Showcase. As always, listeners, let us know your thoughts on what you saw in the showcase, your thoughts and things of that nature. That being said, if you're going to come into the comments and just be an Xbox fanboy, I'm just going to block you because we ain't putting up with that. We ain't putting up with that. Don't be crazy in the comments. Let's get into some of our Patreon write-ins here, rounding out the show. Here, as always, you can write into the show over on patreon.com/thereformedgamers. Richard Marroquin writes in and says, I know everyone is all wrapped up in Tears of the Kingdom. Yes, we are.
Yep.
But the one game I've been excited for is Final Fantasy 16. You and me both, man. Finally watched a trailer minutes before writing this, and oh boy, the trailer had me breathing heavily and my heartbeat racing. This looks like a true generation definer. The cinematically... I think it meant to be the cinematics, gameplay, and music are all amazing. This is a game I will for sure be playing day one. What are y'all's thoughts on this game being the true generation defining game? So I'm going to say a couple things. First of all, I've already got the limited edition pre-ordered Steelbook, baby. I'm waiting. I will be there day one unless Amazon ships it late, and then I won't get it, and I'll be like, curse you, Amazon. But yeah, no, I'm excited for this game. I'm on media blackout for this game. I know it showed up in the showcase, and as soon as it popped up when I was rewatching the showcase, I skipped right over it because I'm like, I don't need to see any more of this game. I want to go in completely blind with what little information I have. As far as it being the true generation defining game, I gotta be honest, man, it's hard for me to say that, but again, we brought up Adam once already. He mentioned how God of War was kind of the game of the generation, last generation on the PS4 era. And, when you kind of look at the trailers, you probably didn't get that vibe. I know I certainly didn't. But then when you play it, it's like, oh, so maybe this game will have that same effect. I'm reserving thoughts until I play it. I hope it's really good. I hope it blows us all away. But again, that kind of remains to be seen. Michael, what about you?
Sure. I think it has the potential to be the generation defining game. But then I think about Final Fantasy 15, and that was nowhere close to generation defining.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there's a wide range this could be. And it's hard to say, it's going to be the one when we just came off of games like Elden Ring and Tears of the Kingdom and just other really, really, really good games. But I'm with you, Richard. This game looks fire. I have it pre-ordered as well. Don't have that special edition, but I got it pre-ordered. This looks like a no doubter. It looks like at least, like an 8 out of 10 kind of thing, at least.
Better be a 9 out of 10 because my fantasy critic thing, I need a big win for that number.
You need
one
some 90
pick.
plus, don't you? Yeah.
Yes, I do.
For sure. Yeah, we're all rooting for it, obviously, here at the show, and I think it has potential. I mean, if you're asking me, pick one, no, I don't think this is going to be a generation defining, but it looks awesome nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to play it, man. It's gonna be here very soon, man.
Yeah,
can't wait. I can't wait. But Richard, thank you for writing in. Let's get into Joshua the Super Llama Johnson's writing. He says, I started playing games like Persona 5 and Celeste because of the soundtrack for them. Have you all played any games because you liked the soundtrack so much? I gotta be honest, I know soundtrack, like the game's music definitely helps draw me in, but I don't know if it's like well, no, I take that back because now I'm thinking of Ori and the Blind Forest, and I kept playing that game because the music, just everything about that game, was just so stellar from stem to stern, and it was really. And Persona 5 had a really awesome soundtrack, as did Persona 4. So I was gonna come in and be like, I don't know if I really played a game because of its music, but yeah, definitely Ori and the Blind Forest and Persona 4 Golden are definitely those kind of games.
Man, Logan, I was thinking, I was really putting some thought into it because I love music in video games, or I should say, music is a big reason why I'm drawn to games and stuff, the ones that I like.
Yeah,
But I've never really like played a game because of the soundtrack before
yeah,
getting it. That like I'm gonna play this because whatever the heck, like so and
yeah.
so's in it. Except for maybe like old school Guitar Hero games,
I
maybe
was
like based on the track
just
list,
about
like
to bring that
literally.
up. Yeah, it's like what?
Right. Maybe then, but otherwise it's like I'm drawn to games that have good soundtracks, but it's not necessarily that's not the draw. Like for example, like Darren Korb over at Supergiant. That's a
Mm,
big reason why I love Supergiant games.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
you could say that's one,
hmm,
but like it's more like I'm gonna stick around once I start playing because of good
yeah,
music.
yeah.
Hotline Miami comes to mind for a game like
Oh,
that.
yeah,
um so I don't know if music has been the driver to get me into many games, but it's certainly been the hook to keep me in a ton of games. Yeah.
yeah. A game has an excellent soundtrack.
Hmm.
I probably shouldn't say this because this is going to rile up this fan base a little too much. Those of them that are in the community, but Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, Live and Learn.
Oh,
That's a bop right there.
I need to check this on YouTube later after
Oh,
recording.
dude. Oh, have you never played Sonic Adventure 2 Battle?
Sorry, no, I have not.
That's a really long title. I just really realized that's way too long.
I played Sonic Adventure back on the Dreamcast back in the day.
No, 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 no. This one's far superior. It's so good.
Okay,
It's so good, man. Oh yeah. No, just look up Live and Learn. That is wow. That's what a song.
I'll check it out for real and
Good stuff.
report
Good
back.
stuff. But yeah, Joshua and early listeners as well, you'll have to let us know kind of what your picks are. Yeah, I immediately went to Guitar Hero as you were talking. I'm like, dude, yeah, Guitar Hero 2 had, in my opinion, the best track list. I think 3 had, Through the Fires and Flames by Dragon Force, and that was always fun to play because it's ridiculously hard. But I think 2 had the best
Two
one.
was hard to touch. Two was
Yeah,
really hard to touch. It was a great soundtrack. Yeah.
man, so good, man. I always wish they would bring those games back, but I know they've tried a couple times and it's just never sells well. So
Dude, I've been playing Rock Band lately because of Skinner. I've been telling
that's
you.
true.
I still boot it up from time to time. Did it play some drums just the other day. Yeah.
I should find a used set of Rock Band stuff and play that and just relive my my college years.
It's gonna cost you for real. Like no
Is
joke.
it pricey?
Yeah, I think the guitar, like if you want to find like a good working, set of drums or a good working guitar, like it's gonna cost you a little bit, I think now.
Mm,
Yeah.
gosh, dude, I hate how expensive the used games market has become over the last couple of
It's
years.
crazy, Logan.
It's wild. Speaking of things that are crazy, so Jenner writes in, side note, Joshua, thank you for writing in. So Jenner writes in and says, last gen and current gen introduced the back pedals and accurate vibrations for controllers. 1-2 Switch was a lame game, but that Ice Cube Simulator thing was insane. Do you think we're going to see any crazy changes or advancement in terms of controllers? Any changes or improvements you would like to see in terms of controllers this gen or next gen? I gotta say, um, two things that I'm thinking of right now. Obviously, the dual sense, they were touting the technology and it's being incredible and all that jazz. I'm like, whatever, this is stupid. And then I played Astrobot with it, and I was like, oh, that's fancy. I feel the raindrops on my hands. That's kind of cool. And then even recently with their with PlayStation's accessibility controller and really Xboxes as well, they like like when you look at those and see how you can customize them and really fine tune them, it's just that right there kind of blows my mind at how really it allows a lot of different types of people to play these games from different walks of life and different backgrounds.
Hmm.
But man, when I looked at the PlayStation one, I was like, this kind of looks like a fighting gamepad a little bit. Back when I played Street Fighter pretty heavily in college, I was all about those fighting pads, and man, the PlayStation one looks a lot like it. And so, I mean, there's that. But as far as like any crazy changes or advancements, I mean, dude, it's always hard for me to think of these kind of things. I don't know if you have any ideas, Micah, or any comments on
I
that.
don't have anything that is like clever or smart. First of all, I will say I've never tried back pedals yet. I haven't gotten to that sophistication
I
level.
I've used them with the 8-bit Do Pro 2 controller, the new line of them, and I'm personally not a fan, but I think those are more like just back buttons. It's probably better than having, or it's probably different than having the back pedals. Probably a different
Yeah,
tactile
on some of
feel,
these
but
pro controllers,
yeah.
yeah, I bet it's good for certain genres for sure.
Hmm.
But it's all about like learning the game with that setup for me. Like
Right.
if you change
Right.
it, like I'm not gonna be able to do that. But anyway, the only things that I really thought about was like, and this is really boring, is like I want controllers to stop being such crap. Like with like stick drift and
Yes.
just kind of general wear and tear.
Yeah.
I understand this is maybe unique to me and like how I play Rocket League competitively. Like I play a lot of Rocket League, and dude, I
Yeah.
wear down the left thumbstick on my PlayStation controllers like bad. Like
Yeah.
they just wear down to where
Yeah.
they're like they don't have the bevel and the kind of ridges and everything. And like I kind of plow through them because of that, and so I just wish they would make them kind of hold up and last longer, have longer battery life, and these types of
Yeah.
things. Like just make them last longer and be worth that $70 investment, like we just talked
Yeah.
about. Um, with that said, I think the DualSense controller is like incredible with its
Yeah.
advancements, especially like kind of the leaps that it made from last gen. It going back to old school controllers now feels hollow
Yeah.
compared to the DualSense.
Definitely
Truly,
feels weird.
it
Yeah.
it feels like you remember when you played the Six Axes on the
Mm.
PS3 and it didn't have Rumble in it yet, and it felt like a toy. Like it kind of,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
quite like that, but there's some sort of like weird, like oh, this is inferior. I don't know, like
It feels gross in
mm-hmm.
a
So
way.
the DualSense has truly spoiled me. It is my favorite controller to date ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's obviously saying something. It's the triggers I love, like the raindrops and stuff, and things like Returnal and Astrobot, all those sorts
Hmm.
of like Gran Turismo's got great I
Mm.
forget what the feedback is called, but anyway,
The
uh
haptic feedback.
haptic feedback, thank you.
Yeah.
All the haptics in like the Sony first party games and like a few others are like really really great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great advancement as far as controller stuff goes. I don't have any other like cool bells and whistles idea really. Just make more quality controllers, that's
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at.
I'll add to this is make these quality controllers in different sizes, because don't get me wrong, the DualSense is dope, but for me, it's a little too big for my hands. It cramps up from time to
Dude,
time.
imagine a small, medium, large of every controller.
I'm just saying, these companies like money. What better way to get money out of people
That's a
than,
great idea.
because here's the thing, obviously I'm at my PC, so I use my Xbox controller here, to game and stuff. And I love how this feels in the hand. This feels perfect to
Hmm.
me. It's, we talk about DualSense being your favorite, man. Personally, this one's my favorite just because this is the most comfortable controller I've ever used in my life.
Sure.
It's so good. And I wish the DualSense had one in a similar size to this, maybe a similar um, ergonomics to it, but they just don't. And I'm like, man, Sony, if you made a smaller version of this, I would buy so many of these, because it would
Yeah.
just work. But I think that's kind of the main thing, is they got to fix those little things first before we start, trying to bring back smell-o-vision into the controllers, where they shoot out smells, as you're playing a game in 3D
Yeah.
or VR or whatever, those sorts of things. But yeah,
The other
those are
last
my
thing that
things.
came to mind, real quick, Logan. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
The other thing that came to mind is stinking Sony and Nintendo need to get on that train with customizing your controllers like Xbox does.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They would
absolutely.
both rake in the cash. They
Yeah,
would just rake it in. Oh
yeah,
man, like that. You know how like like restaurants and stuff, like their profit margin is like, because like Cokes and stuff like that, it's like,
Hmm.
all this stuff is like like for $3, and it's like that's like 2 cents for them to produce that per cup, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
That's like that could be like their Coke, like for Nintendo and Sony. Like it's just like, this is just free
Yeah.
money. You're just
Yeah.
giving away controllers because, like, oh man, if I could design any sort of dual sense controller, dude, I would have like 5 more controllers. No joke.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Absolutely. I would be in that same boat. I haven't done that with the Xbox yet. I have made multiple variations of designs in their design lab, but I haven't bought one anytime soon. Plus, I mean, the one I just showed here on camera is the one that comes with the Series S, and I liked it. Just the look of the white controller with the black on the white, it was super clean, and so I don't really necessarily need a new controller. But yeah, if PlayStation came out with some like design lab sort of thing, shoot, dude. I'd buy myself one, I'd buy my wife one, I'd buy my dog one. He doesn't play games, but I mean, that's some kind of justification for it, So
Yeah.
that's what they got to work on. That's what they got to work on. But listeners, you let us know kind of what your thoughts are on controllers and things of that nature. But with that being said, that brings this episode of TRG to a close. But before we let you go, we got to do a couple things. This is our last episode of the month. We are going into the summer season, coming in hot, man. June is going to be a wild month. Kicks things off. I mean, Tears of the Kingdom already kicked things off. Then
Yeah.
Diablo 4 comes out just in a couple weeks.
Keeping things rolling.
Just keeping things rolling. And at the end of the month, we got Final Fantasy 16. I mean, get ready,
It's
y'all.
happening.
Buckle up. It's happening. The other thing that's happening is shouting out our patrons that are keeping us going over on patreon.com. We want to shout them out here at the end of the episode. Thank you all so much for your continued support over on Patreon. It allows us to continue to do what we do here on the show. And those people are Aaron L. White, Alan Z, Alex Castellanos, Boulder, Calvary Zender, Chris Freeman, Christopher Commander, David Matthews, David Isfiel. I think I pronounced that right. Let me know if I didn't. Derek Smith, Dorian Taylor, Jake Walker, Jimmy Chonga, Joanne Monroe, John Hannon, Jonathan Harrison, Josh Broccolo, Joshua the Super Llama Johnson, Kokoro Daki, Luke Strain, Matt Edwards,
Matthew White Chocolate McDougal, Matthew Millsap, Melvin Benson V, Micah Hendrick, Michael Toller, Mr. Butts, Nate McKeever, Richard Marroquin, Ryan1701E, Sam White, Sevon Pena, Scruffosaurus, Sojourner, Third Strongest Mole, Tim Syriac, Vincent Yu, Wesley Ray, Xavier Medina, Yuki Ali, and Zachary Nelson. Thanks, patrons.
Man, dude, what a list. What a list.
Yeah.
Just rad people.
Shout out to Sojourner, who was hanging out the whole time for the PlayStation Showcase with me in Discord.
What a rad lad. Again, you can become one of those rad people over on patreon.com. Micah, let's end the show with some recos, man. What are some things our listeners should check out?
Yeah, this was on the fly. I didn't have anything prepared. I could not think of anything. But what I was sort of thinking here in the last bit, I was thinking about all those studios that PlayStation didn't roll out, all those first-party studios, that list of 13 that just didn't show up. And one that I really am looking forward to seeing what they're doing next is Blue Point. I really love that studio. And now that a lot of people seemingly are getting their hands on PlayStation 5s, don't forget the launch game Demon Souls that Blue Point did. Boy, this cool is game. The genesis of the Souls genre, the one that started it all. They did this game right. Oh, it's still one of the most beautiful games produced to date.
Yeah.
And the design is obviously not flawless. It was From Software's first stab at this kind of thing, but it's very, very good and got some truly iconic imagery and settings. And just don't forget that kind of this was a thing. This game is still fantastic. If you're just getting your PS5, go back and check out Demon Souls.
Yep. Especially if you want to kind of like flaunt the power of the PS5 to some friends or something. That's a good one to start with. And I know people hear this game and they're like, oh, dude, the game's going to be hard. If you want this game to be easy mode, just play as a sorcerer. Seriously, magic in this game is insanely OP. Even from the start of it, you'll burn through the opening of the game pretty quick.
Or do like me and play with a buddy like half the time.
There you
and
go.
Like you can just roll through bosses sometimes. So yeah.
Yep. That is a good pick. As we kind of go into the summer, man, this is, I'm looking forward to doing a lot of things. Reading. I'm going to finally read, what is that, fourth Stormlight Archive book. I think it's Rhythm of War. I'm looking forward to finally getting into that and reading that through, getting back into building model Gundams, finally getting caught up on anime. I'm on episode 50 of One Piece. Hopefully going to get to 200 by the end of the summer.
Very
We'll
nice.
see. I've got plenty of time. And so as we kind of go into the summer, man, that's my thing is, kind of look at some of the hobbies that maybe you kind of haven't been able to get to here recently and jump back into them. Try to carve out some time and get into them a little bit. Maybe you're into gardening, right? Maybe you're into some lawn care, all right? Reformed lawn care, sowing seeds, mowing weeds, all that jazz. Get into that and just have some fun with it. Also, if you if you're a movie fan, now's a great time to get into movies. You got the Super Mario Brothers movie. You got John Wick Chapter 4 that just came out. I'm looking forward to revisiting that. That movie was so good. But yeah, it's just kind of a perfect time to get back into all that stuff, and maybe try out some new hobbies. I'm always a proponent for trying out some new hobbies, whether that's cooking, model Gundams, whatever it may be. And that is my Reco. As always, dear listeners, you can support TRG. I've talked about enough. The links and stuff. It's all in the show notes. There's other ways that you can support the show, though. You can like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Well, you can like the video, subscribe. You get the idea. We just crossed the 1,500 subscriber mark over there on YouTube. So, shout out to all y'all for supporting the channel over there. My Trails to Azure review is closing in on 1,000 views just within the first couple weeks, which is the best performing video we've had on there. The last episode we did is the best performing episode of the podcast we've done yet. So y'all get over there, man. You got a lot of extra content that you can check out over on the YouTube channel. So as you can go to our website, thereformedgamers.com. You can follow us on Twitter. You can join the Discord. A lot of cool things going on over in the Discord. Plus if you are missing Snapchatter and you like Marvel Snap, we're about to finish up our first tournament that we did there. It's going to be me and Minnie facing off in the semifinals, and then you got Savage Toddler going up against Matt Crumley, our resident Crumquat, as I call him.
Oh man,
it's gonna be a crazy match. We're gonna see how it goes, and we'll see who goes into the finals. But we'll definitely be doing some more of those over the summer. One of the things I'd like to do is pay for the winners next season pass for that month, so they get a free card and a bunch of challenges. So that will be in a future tournament. So hop on into the Discord. We'll have a lot of fun over there. I know they're words are hard. They're reviving Fall Guys Fridays, I think is what they're reviving that. Some people are playing that. A new season started there. Ooh. They have like a track builder now or something. So
yeah, they did have a new update. I saw that. That looks fun.
So it's crazy. We're hanging out over in the TRG Discord, and we're playing games. We're having fun, and it's a good time over there. The link will be in your show notes. But Micah, I want to kind of do things a little bit differently. With this episode as we end it, man. Any final thoughts? Just random thoughts that you might have?
No, just don't overreact to the showcase. Like I said, I think there's to any showcase we might some of the stuff that wasn't here today might be at Summer Games Fest. I think that's a good chance. For example, if you recall, I think last year or year before, Microsoft didn't even show Halo at their own E3 conference. It showed up like a month later at Summer Games Fest with Jeff Keighley. So it was weird stuff happens like that. So if you didn't get to see Last of Us or whatever, like you're hoping, maybe it'll show up somewhere else. But yeah, very much looking forward to just the E3 season, quote unquote. Looking forward to Microsoft on June 11th. They should have a big boy show too, though I guess maybe we should temper expectations. And as always, you always have that. You don't have that problem. I have that problem of tempering expectations.
I'm the one that's posting the Kratos meme that says keep your expectations low and you'll never be disappointed.
Yeah, you're like, Micah, turn that mirror. No, point that finger around back at you. Don't talk to me about that.
Heed the words of Kratos.
Yeah, but no, I'm just excited for showcase season. So yeah.
Man, I'm just excited for the summer, man. I can't stop thinking about how crazy June's going to be, man. Tears of the Kingdom, Diablo 4, Street Fighter 6, Final Fantasy 16. Dude, it's going to be a wild month. I don't know how I'm going to play all these games, but I'm going to attempt to do it. So it's a good time. But yeah, if any of you are picking up some of those more multiplayer games that are coming out in June, hit us up, man. I would love to chop up with some Street Fighter with some of y'all. Picking my boy Blanca. Let's go, man. Let's get after it. But yeah, it's going to be a good time. With that being said, dear listeners, thank you for listening to this episode. And until next time, be a dear, keep it locked here. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to TRG. This show is fully supported over on patreon.com by our dear listeners. The following are our supporters at the producer level or higher, and we are thankful for their continued support that allows us to continue doing what we do here at TRG. Those people are Wesley Ray, Mr. Butts, David Matthews, Richard Marroquin, and Alan Z. Thank you again for your continued support over on patreon.com, where you can pledge your support to the show and get early uncut access to all of our episodes, behind the scenes, and more. Thank you for listening, and until next time, be a dear, keep it locked here. We'll see you in the next episode.